We are asking the most fortunate Angelenos to participate in this effort with personal, private sector, and philanthropic funds to help us acquire more properties, lower the cost of capital, and speed up housing.
So as the LA mayor asked the most wealthy Angelenos to step up and help pay for homelessness, I want you to check out this video of a man who builds a home on the side of a freeway. It's crazy.
On Fox 11, it is an oasis along the Arroyo Seco that's become a unique image of the homelessness crisis that LA is facing. A man in Highland Park has built a place he calls home from items that he says others have thrown away. And he has been allowed to do it. Fox 11's Susan Hirasuna gets an inside look. She's live in Highland Park with this exclusive story. Susan.
Well, Alex, you know, there's a lot of reason that people might call the city to complain about a homeless encampment. But this one here, it's nowhere near any businesses, schools, or traditional homes. And you got to admit, there's a lot of curb appeal, or in this case, riverfront appeal. From the bottom of the Arroyo Seco, the view of Alejandro Diaz's custom home. There are multiple makeshift homes built from scrap lumber and scavenged trash on this narrow strip next to the 110 freeway. But Diaz's home, yellow with white trim, stands out. There's a concrete path to the front door. On the other side, a garden with freshly planted flowers and trees.
Toda la gente, muchos güeros llegan y me dicen, hey.
Diaz says everyone approves of his home, and it's clear he's house proud.
Gracias. Gracias.
He somehow managed to get the materials like these ornamental stones across the arroyo. He installed ladders to access his little plot of land, and there's a pulley. Diaz came to the U.S. from Guatemala 8 years ago. He's lived here happily 2 years.
My dad's from Guatemala. I wonder if this is one of my cousins.
Here, no one bothers him, he says. No police, no strangers. Inside the structure, there's a neatly made bed, though he apologizes for the mess. He enjoys TV and lights, extension cords drawing power from the streetlight. In this small room, a toilet without running water. Diaz may have created his own little oasis, but living here has its challenges. In this neighborhood, traversing between homes means kind of a scary walk. Then there's the constant noise from the 110 freeway and the swift water in the arroyo that can go from brook to raging river in a storm. Diaz has a bridge he can reconstruct in a minute, but his neighbor Francisco proves how treacherous crossing without one can be. Whoa, careful! He's okay and claims his life here along the arroyo is better than when he lived on the streets. I live pretty well. That's what Francisco told us. Now, we reached out to Council Member Hernandez's office to find out if they were aware of all of the little structures along the arroyo next to the 110. They said that they were and that there has been some outreach, but right now, as we all know, there just aren't enough resources. So it's doubtful that the city will do anything. Meantime, you know, when we met Alejandro, it's clear.
Sounds like that guy is going to be able to keep his home right there on the side of the freeway.
Clear that he seems happy and healthy, and perhaps that's the ultimate goal. Reporting live near Highland Park, I'm Susan Hirasuna, Fox 11 News.
Is there any thought that he might want to work in construction or carpentry and buy a more traditional house with the money he could make?
Or as a gardener, I asked him if he was a jardinero, and he, you know, look, my Spanish is halting its bet. We did the best we could with the conversation. He does not have money. He says that he manages to scavenge enough food to keep him and his girlfriend in an okay state. But you got to give him a lot of props for at least creating a very appealing looking home. I asked him whether he did it for him or his girlfriend. He says, no, los dos, both of us. So.
Boy, oh boy, that is crazy. I mean, look, before I get to my other point, you do have to give the man props for being that creative to build a home, a makeshift home like that with a bathroom, a TV, but he's found a way to get electricity. He has a place to sleep in there. I mean, I would rather live in there than in some shelter. That's just me. It looks kind of cool, but you can't do this. You can't. This is some third world stuff right here. LA has so many homeless people. I believe I read as a 46,000 homeless people in LA County, in LA City proper, in the county itself, over 75,000 or so. And then the state itself has over 180,000 homeless people, if I'm correct on my numbers. But that's crazy. And not everybody's happy about that. I watched another video and a guy was saying he gives him props for that, being able to build that home and being creative, but at the same time, he's stealing electricity. He's just basically living there without paying any property taxes. He's stealing from the city. And this can't happen. It can't. It shouldn't be like this. And California is rampant with homelessness, especially in LA County, LA itself. And like I said, while I find it very creative, this guy should put those skills to use. You can get a job in construction, carpentry, gardening, just like they were saying. Go use those skills because he's obviously very talented. There's no way I could have ever even done that myself. The man has some skill. So why don't you get out there and get a job? And then maybe you can save up for an apartment or something, or, get a job doing something meaningful. But check this out. California cannot meaningfully track where $20 billion of homeless funding went.
A scathing new report tonight about California's response to the homeless crisis. The state auditor says the state has spent $20 billion in 5 years, but can't meaningfully track the spending or measure results.
Well, KCAL News reporter Joy Benedict is live in North Hollywood tonight with more. Joy?
Yeah, guys, I mean, this was a very lengthy audit that was put out by the state earlier today. And what it shows is really everyone's fear, right? That we're throwing a lot of money at a problem and the problem isn't going to be fixed. And although that may be what the audit says on surface level, those who work with the homeless say it's just not that simple. In a community like the Arts District of North Hollywood, the streets are always packed with patrons, neighbors, and the unhoused.
They clear them and then they come back, then they clear them, then they come back.
I've only been in the area since 2018, and in those few years I've seen it increase almost exponentially. It is very sad.
Numbers a new state audit confirm, as the state legislative audit committee released a report saying that homeless numbers jumped 53% in the last decade, with an estimated 180,000 people unhoused in California. That's despite the spending of more than $20 billion.
Yeah, so I was right. 180,000 people in California homeless.
To stop it.
My initial reaction is that this is a big problem.
Political analyst Jessica Levinson says the even bigger issue in the report is the lack of accountability, as the audit can't verify that 3 of the 5 homeless programs the state is funding are working.
And the government is failing to account for where the money is being used and if it's being used wisely.
They're not saying the money was misused. They're saying they just can't account for where the money went.
There certainly are no allegations here of misappropriation of funds, but this is just a black hole in a space where we need information.
But those who work with the homeless say it's just not that simple.
The key reason that our homeless numbers are going up is because more people are falling into homelessness.
Stephanie Klasky Gamer is the CEO of LA Family Housing, which helped 15,000 people last year alone, either experiencing homelessness or fighting to save their home.
The funds that were audited were all emergency response programs that came out during the pandemic.
She says she knows how her agency's dollars were spent, but since state dollars are mixed with local funding, they just may be harder to trace statewide.
I imagine that gathering data because of how these funds were released is more challenging, not because the funds haven't had an impact.
The 2 programs the audit said are clearly working are CalWorks and Project Homekey.
Project Homekey dollars were used to purchase motels. So that's an easy quantifiable measure. You received $100 million and you bought 10 motels.
But she says the bottom line is the funds used to fight homelessness are key, not only for those living on the streets, but everyone in this state.
Homelessness is a crisis that responds to
The bottom line is that they cannot track $20 billion. This is all her assumption. This is all this lady's assumption. Well, maybe because it was mixed with other funds, blah, blah, and it's hard to track. No. The point is the government they can't verify if that all these programs are working. 3 out of 5, 60% of these programs, they don't know if they're working or not. And they spent $20 billion, over $20 billion. And like I said, just a black hole. They don't know where this money went. I mean, that's pretty incompetent if you ask me. You should be able to track every dollar and see where this money went and how it was spent on this homeless crisis in California. But they're just wasting money. And California had a chance. You had a chance at a recall to put in somebody who's more competent. You had a recall with Gavin Newsom and Larry Elder. You could have picked Larry Elder, but you failed to do so. I think Gavin Newsom won 62% on the vote, 61% or so, or those that voted against the recall was 62% to 38% or so. And LA had a chance to get a Republican mayor, a guy who was more tough on crime. He was a business guy. He's a business guy. They had a chance. It was a close race, but I believe it was close. But they had a chance to change course on this nonsense. Yeah, and this comes in recently. California City okays $1 million per unit homeless housing project after audit found state wasted billions on crisis, as we just said. Just watch. Santa Monica city officials last week approved a multi-million dollar apartment unit for the homeless just days after the release of an audit which found California could not account for the $24 billion it spent on the state's burgeoning homeless crisis. The 122 unit building for the homeless will include a mix of studio, 1 and 2 and 3 bedroom apartments, along with ground floor retail and residential and commercial parking spaces. Wow. A design concept of the city's website shows the multi-apartment unit will cost more than $123 million for a cost of just over $1 million each for the 122 apartments. A design concept will cost even more, north of $200 million for 196 units. Moving forward and bringing affordable and permanent supportive housing to city-owned land is a key step in our strategy to fulfill our housing element requirements. The measure was approved days after the release of an audit which indicated the state had spent around $24 billion between 2018 and 2023 to tackle homelessness, but did not consistently track whether the huge outlay of public money did anything to actually improve the problem. Yeah, now they're building a nice luxury apartment building for homeless people after the state cannot account for all this money spent.
So with a declining
They cannot account for this money. This is lunacy. This is a big problem in California and LA. And it's full of incompetent people running that state. People have to wake up there. I don't know what it's going to take, but I thought I'd show that too. I thought it was very interesting about that guy building a house on the side of the freeway. I haven't seen anything like that here in Texas where I live, in Tarrant County, because it won't be tolerated. But LA, you have a little more leeway to do things like that. But hey, give the guy credit for being creative and building a house, but he's stealing electricity, not paying property taxes. He needs to worry about squatters coming in there. Imagine that. But all right, guys, thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. See you next time. Thank you. Take care.